Before everything changed, Samuel's life was simple but hard. From the moment he finished secondary school, he knew university was a dream, far out of reach. His parents barely fed the family, with the little they made from farming and odd jobs in their small village in Sariki. So Samuel decided early that he had to fight for a better life. He came to the nearby town and started doing anything he could find. He pushed wheelbarrows for people in the market, sweating under the sun and sleeping in a wooden stall at night. When that didn't give him enough, he worked at a construction site, carrying cement, digging trenches, and mixing sand. Then he sold cold pure water on the streets, dodging cars and hustling every single day for a few naira. Later, he found a small job as a security guard for a bank. It wasn't much, but at least the uniform made him feel like someone. He saved as much as he could, skipping meals just to keep the dream alive. His goal was clear: to save enough to give to his mom in order to start a petty trade while he goes to start an apprenticeship in the city, preferably at Alabi or Oniba markets. He had heard stories of boys who went to serve for 5 or 7 years, and after their masters settled them, they opened big shops and became men of status. That was the life he wanted, not just for himself, but for his parents who still bent over their farm with little or no reward. For almost 3 years, Samuel was careful. He avoided bad friends. He didn't go to parties. He sent small money home when he could, and kept his eyes on the plan. People knew him as a serious boy, respectful, quiet, and focused. Nothing distracted him, until the day he saw Jonah again. They were not exactly close in school, but they had shared a bench and sometimes food. Jonah was the class clown then, always getting into trouble. Samuel hadn't heard from him since they finished the final exams. But now, standing outside the bank one morning as his shift ended, Samuel saw a sleek black Lexus park across the road. The door opened, and out came Jonah, clean, fresh, and glowing. Chain on his neck, wristwatch shining, perfume strong even from a distance. It didn't even seem real. Jonah recognized him immediately, smiled, and crossed the road. They talked. Jonah laughed like the old days and told him how life had changed. He said he now lived in Lagos, but was just around for a small business move. He asked Samuel what he was still doing as a security guard in this kind of heat. That short meeting changed everything. Samuel didn't know that the moment Jonah entered his life again, things were already moving in a different direction. Will it be for good or for bad? After their reunion, Samuel and Jonah started seeing each other more often. Jonah would take him out, buy him drinks, give him small cash here and there, and talk about how life could be better. But Samuel wasn't interested in the drinks or the money. He wanted to know how Jonah made it. He kept asking him to show him the way. Again and again, he asked, telling him he wasn't afraid of hard work, that all he wanted was to help his family. Jonah kept telling him the same thing. It wasn't something just anyone could do. He warned him to leave it alone, but Samuel wouldn't stop. He said he was tired of suffering, tired of watching his parents struggle, tired of saving every naira with nothing to show for it. One evening, Jonah finally gave in. He told Samuel to follow him and not ask too many questions. That night, they drove far outside town, past villages and empty roads, until they reached a narrow path that led into the forest. Jonah told him to cover his eyes with a cloth, and Samuel did it without a word. They walked deep into the forest, led by torchlight and the sound of crickets. When they arrived, Jonah removed the blindfold. In front of them was a small clearing, lit by oil lanterns. A wooden table stood in the middle, covered with red cloth, an object Samuel couldn't name. Around the table were men, dressed in white wrappers, silent and serious. Samuel stood still. He had never seen anything like it, but he had come too far to turn back. When he was asked to kneel, he obeyed. When they gave him something bitter to drink, he swallowed it without question. Then they told him things that didn't sound real at first, what they required, what he had to give, what would follow. They all seemed like simple tasks until they asked for the one thing that was impossible for him, his mother. Of course, it was common for such rituals for requests for the life of a loved one. Samuel never expected he would find himself in such a situation, because he only heard it as stories and even concluded they were fairy tales, but he was now in the same situation. The moment they said the words, "You have to sacrifice your mother," Everything in him froze. His mind ran wild, but his body acted on its own. As the men turned to prepare something behind the table, he took a few steps back, then turned and ran. No one had to tell him he was in danger. He could feel it. The forest was dark, the paths unfamiliar, but fear gave him speed. Shouts rang out behind him. Two men chased after him with cutlasses, slicing through bushes as they ran. Samuel didn't look back. He ran as fast as his legs could carry him, stumbling over roots, branches scratching his skin, thorns tearing at his clothes. His chest burned, his legs screamed, but he didn't stop. One of the men caught up to him and swung the machete. It cut deep into his side. Samuel screamed and fell. The second man raised his weapon, ready to strike again, when suddenly a loud voice shouted and a gun fired into the air. The men didn't wait to find out who it was. They dropped their weapons and ran. Samuel could barely see, but he knew someone had saved him. The man rushed him to a nearby town hospital. Blood soaked his shirt. His breathing was weak. The nurses fought to keep him awake as they wheeled him into the emergency room. By morning, his family had arrived. His mother collapsed at the door when she saw him. His younger siblings cried. His father stood quietly in the corner, fists clenched. They had never seen Samuel like this. Samuel could barely talk, but all he kept whispering, again and again, was, "I'm sorry." He spent 3 weeks in that hospital. 3 long, painful weeks. The doctors said it was a miracle he survived. He had lost a lot of blood, and the wounds were deep. His hospital bill cleared out everything he had saved over the years. All the pure water money, the wheelbarrow money, the security job savings, gone. When he was strong enough, he returned to the village. He didn't say much, he simply told people he was kidnapped. Even when his friends asked questions, even when his father pressed him in private, he never gave full details. Whatever happened in that forest, he locked it inside himself. He never saw Jonah again. Months passed, and by some grace, his uncle in Lagos heard what happened and decided to help. He arranged for Samuel to join an apprenticeship at Alabi Market. It wasn't easy starting over, especially after losing so much, but Samuel was grateful to be alive. He started again, brick by brick, this time the right way. He never forgot the forest. He never forgot the faces, or the sound of the cutlass, or the man who saved him. But he also never forgot the lesson. Some shortcuts